Well, I would like to use this drawing to illustrate some of the problems that can arise when you use transparency in your designs and then want to print to PDF and even print to a fixed scale. So here the designer's got the same site and is just experimenting on different ways to arrange that site. And if we zoom in here on the final design, which is shown on an A3 sheet here, let me just zoom out a little with its title block and so on. If we zoom in on the title block, it's a scale at 1:100, but if we try and select the floating viewport here, you can see the scale is in fact view scale is 80. So if we want to print to a fixed scale, we need to set that number to 80 and we need to say it's going to be a fixed scale. And as you can see, we zoom out a little. That would leave room for putting the plant schedule on the sheet. But I digress just a little. Let's return here. And one of the problems is that if you want to print at very high resolution to a PDF printer, like for the sake of argument bullzip or gCADPlus writer, the more occasionally the drawing will print properly, but as soon as you have several entities with transmission in them, printing will stop or will last a very long time and produce a very poor result. That's why we've given you the option to say file and save as a PDF, and if I go back here we can say right click, zoom extents, and we can go file and save as a PDF. We can pick window and maximum, and we can put a box around the drawing sheet, and we'll just call it test, put it on the desktop, and a PDF file is now being written, and you'll find that that the drawing shows reasonably well, but it's too faint. So let's close from there and we'll turn on line weights now. Now remember, line weights are controlled by the line weight setting here. So the default is 0.25, a pen of 0.25 millimeter. So let's try it again. We can right click and PDF save. We still need to indicate the area to be printed, and we'll overwrite test, and we should get a better result. And the transparency that is in the drawing does print correctly. So let's again escape from there and return to our drawing. Now, a useful thing to do, so what I'm saying here, transparency in the drawing won't print to a PDF writer at high resolution at a fixed scale of 1:100. We can get by including a scale bar, as you see here, and using that save as PDF, but the print is not exactly 1:100 because we can't nominate, when we do the save as PDF, we can't nominate the sheet. A useful tool for resolving this issue is to say view and transparent render, take it off, and that will show immediately those symbols that are in the drawing that are using transparency, and they're the ones that will give problem in using a proper high resolution gCADPlus writer. What do we do about it? Well, we have a couple of alternatives. If I zoom out a little, we could take the individual symbol, and if we right click and edit it and click in here, notice that it's been set to a tiny transparency. By default gCADPlus uses 255, so let's set it back to 255 and we'll hit enter and we'll close, and you'll see the result. It's not changed, has it? Let me check that again. Edit the block, transparency 255. Well, the reason it hasn't changed is it's gone back to the color setting. Now what I'll now do is close the block editor, and what we're after is a much paler color. So we could use modify match properties, and we can match, we want the tree and we want it to be really quite pale. What I was hoping to do is just match the properties of that tree to this one, and that's actually going to be difficult because if we edit the block, I can't use match properties, which is not sitting in there. So it's somewhat tedious. What I need to do is say that's going to be color 246, 250 and 240. So let's try it. We'll jump in there, we'll edit the block, select it, and we'll actually set our own color. This has been done by combinations of red, green and blue. So 246, 212 and 205, and we hit enter and close the editor. Now I've chosen the wrong set of colors. Let me try it again. Edit the block, select a color, 246, 250, 240 and enter, and unselect all and close the block. So now we have a symbol which would print correctly. What's been revealed is this symbol, which I'm going to move out of the way because this is another alternative to do it. Can you see here that all that playing around and getting the color right, what we want to do is see the underlying geometry. So what I'm going to do is I'll park that one out of the way. I'm going to go, and I did go, library, plants and sized, and I came down to tall trees. All this sized group is designed so that you can see through them and you can lighten or darken them according to the layer settings as well. But I shall open it and insert it into the drawing. So I'm bringing it in, and then if this one, which I now know is the correct size, 3.45, let's scale that to 3.45, and again 3.45, and again. So that's how I managed to move that symbol in. So all I have to do is place it in the appropriate spot. Now we can see, we know we've got a plant above it, and we can see what's happening. Now if we edit this one and select that everything's on a layer called tall tree, and the tall tree layer, if we close, is relatively faint. Here it is, 253. If we wanted to darken it up a little, it's just a matter of, and I'll exaggerate a bit, we'll go to 251, and now can you see the symbol is now darkened off. So it's a long-winded way of achieving our aim, but we could now print that drawing full size and all the geometry will show through. The next step is to work out how we might manage the paving here. Now if we pick that paving, it's set at color 24. With a bit of luck, we can use our palette of colors over here and go modify and match properties, pick up the one I've designated as a path and just apply it there. So there we have the path running. It looks very like the one that we did before. We can go match properties here to here and match properties again and there to there. And what I'm now going to do is I'll open the drawing again and just show you we don't need that one. But that drawing can now be printed out. Let's go here. That now is set to 1 to 100, and we've got a faint appropriate colour for the lawn, and this symbol here will allow it's a large tree clearly, and we can see the geometry under it. Now, I'm sorry that was rather long-winded, but we got there in the end. So making a little palette like this one is really quite useful, and we may well release a palette of those so you can use the match properties. So it really is, when you start a design, it's quite important to think about the final result. If you don't need a print at an accurate scale, we could easily zoom out here and just say not to scale down in there, have it whatever we like, because we've got an internal scale there, which is not a problem. And then we could use all the save as PDF and print in that way. So there are lots of alternative ways of achieving your aim, but you really have to define your aim first right at the outset, and that will make life a lot easier. So we hope that you can see in gCADPlus there's a lot of flexibility in the way you work. And the reason this has evolved over time, because every landscape designer seems to want to do things in a slightly different way and develop their symbols in a different way. Well, now for comparison, the original drawing is shown on the right with its transparency. If I pick that, you can, we can go in there and edit that block, and that's got a transparency of 20%. So we'll close the editor. If we say View, take off Transparent Render, you can see transparency has been applied in a number of cases. And here's the one that we've just finished, where we can see through a symbol that's used as a tall tree. And if we take Transparent Render off, you can see we still have to deal with making another colour to suit the colour of this one. But basically we've achieved our aim. We can now print that drawing full size on whatever size sheet we want, setting a fixed scale, and we know it will print with high resolution.